Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another E3 video. In this episode, we'll be talking about Sony's conference. Now, as of the point I'm recording this, Sony's conference starts in like 30 minutes, but much like I did for Microsoft yesterday, and like I'll do for Nintendo tomorrow, I want to give a little pre-thing, giving my little thoughts on Sony's position. Right now, Sony is winning the console wars, right? We all know, oh, they're doing so good, over 50 million PS4 sold. Oh, yay, they just released their PS4 Pro last year, right? And last year, as I admitted, they won E3. I thought they did a great job at E3 last year. They focused on the games, there was very little bullshit between them, and it shows that they did good, because that's what I feel like every other conference has been trying to do this year. Did what Sony did last year. Focus on the games, very little between, and right, just have the center stage of the games, because that's what people care for at the end of the day. And they've succeeded in some ways, failed in some other ways, but for the most part, I've been positive on E3 this year. So with Sony setting this trend this year, are they going to continue it? Are they going to try something new? Or are they just going to focus on the games? How much shade are they going to throw at Microsoft? Right? The other thing about Sony is, I almost bought a PS4 like a few days ago. If you don't know, Sony's doing this whole Days of Play thing where they've got this limited edition gold PS4 with a terabyte for like $250. And I came so close to buying it because PS4 is the only console I don't own. Whenever I want to use one, I borrow one from a friend or go over to a friend's house and we play. But I've never owned Sony. Well, not since the PS2 era. But I was so close to buying a PS4, and then I talked myself out of it because of Nintendo. So, if I know this conference will succeed, if it makes me regret not buying that PS4, right? And I kind of hope they will do it. So, who knows? But with that, let's just cut straight to my thoughts right after the conference. So, the Sony conference just ended. And, let's just get right into what they talked about. I was expecting a 2-hour conference, because that's what I had heard rumored. Nope, it was barely an hour. Right? So it's not as short as Bethesda, but it was definitely not as long as Microsoft's, which, oh, thank God, because Microsoft's conference took forever. Right? So they started off with this whole live music, waterfall, all this cool water art. A lot of this conference was just Sony showing off their money. Like, hey, look at this. Look at all the money we have. Ha ha ha. Right? Okay. And then from there, this music led right into Uncharted The Lost Legacy, which is presumably the Uncharted 4 DLC. Right? It looks good. I kind of like Uncharted. From what I've seen, I did play the second one with a friend. Was that Chloe? That was who, right? Because she wasn't in 4, right? I don't think so. So this DLC seems to be about her. We got another piece of DLC, which was Horizon: The Frozen Wilds. Yeah, okay. Horizon Zero Dawn was good from what I heard. I almost bought it, but yeah, it looks good. It's probably good. Whatever, right? Next up, Days Gone. Okay, I think I said last year this was the worst thing Sony showed off. And again, this is still the worst thing. Oh my God, stop pretending like we give a shit about this game. Like, it's even, what was the date? I have to apologize to State of Decay 2 because it was the most. I called it the most generic zombie game. Nope. Days Gone is the most generic zombie game. Like, oh my God, I don't give a shit. It started off on a biker sequence, which I'm like, oh, woo, Right to Hell Retribution 2. I think I made the exact same joke last year, honestly. I don't give a shit. Oh, woo, QuickTime events. Oh, yay. It's funny, because they added QuickTime events to this, and another game we'll get to, but yet it seems like they removed QuickTime events from God of War. That's really funny. But yeah, I still don't give a shit about this. It's such a generic zombie game. I mean, like, I know they're toting, oh, look how many zombies we can have on screen at one time. Ooh la la. But who gives a shit? It's a zombie game. Ugh. And they make it like, oh, it's such a big deal. This cool zombie game. No, it's not a big deal at all. Oh, and there's also a zombie bear. Whatever. This E3 has had a lot of bears. The Metro Exodus, that Elder Scrolls. There were a bunch of them in the Bethesda conference. What is with all the bears? Alright, next up, this one surprised me. Because they started this trailer, and I'm like, you see this guy with a giant sword, and I'm like, what is this? It kind of looks like Monster Hunter, but doesn't Nintendo have the exclusivity to Monster Hunter? No, sure enough, Sony's got a Monster Hunter game now, Monster Hunter World. This is kind of a big deal because this is Sony, right? Nintendo's had it for years, and and I know there are a lot of passionate Monster Hunter fans. I didn't expect to see this so soon because I think we heard about the trademark recently, but I didn't expect it to be Sony exclusive, especially when Double Cross got announced a little while ago, right, for Switch. So that'll be interesting, right? Other than that, we didn't really see anything. At first I was like, they're doing like fantasy dinosaurs, and I'm like, it kind of looks like whatever at first, but I don't know. We see some of the dinosaur fights, and it looks okay. And it got an early 2018 release date. This one, at first I was like, oh, this is cool. Shadow of the Colossus 2. Or not 2. I wish it was Shadow of the Colossus 2. I am honestly surprised nobody has made a Shadow of the Colossus spiritual successor. That really needs to happen. Somebody really needs to just make a spiritual successor. I mean, like, I know Castlevania had some elements in one of their games. Breath of the Wild felt like it was going to have some elements, and it could have, but nope. Well, they had the Stone Talos, but other than that, they're remaking Shadow of the Colossus again. I don't have a problem with this, kind of. I said before, Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top, it's in my top 5 for sure, maybe even higher than that. I love it. So to see a remake is good. It's got a 2018 release date, and the big thing I noticed is they changed the lighting engine around, and everything seems to have a lot higher textures. This is both a good and a bad thing, because Shadow of the Colossus always had a grimy look, and depending on how... And this doesn't look as grimy. I mean, like, it's still kind of there, but not as strong as it used to be. And I think it's... I don't know. It is... And especially because when they're remaking it again, but yet they're not including Ico, because didn't the remake on the PS3 include Ico? Interesting. I'm down for it, totally. That was my moment where I was like, holy shit. Right. Next up, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They showed off a bunch of trailers for a story mode. So it seems like all fighters are going that direction, especially because the first fighter that I remember that like had a story mode that like everyone made a big deal about was Mortal Kombat 9. There probably were ones before that, but that was the one I heard everyone make a big fuss about. And I like Injustice has a story, Injustice 2, which just came out. So to see this one have it, okay, that's good. I know some people are going to like it. For some reason, I felt like we had seen hints of a story mode before because of that whole trailer where we see the one Maverick guy and Ultron combine. I felt like we had gotten hints of that, but whatever. It looks good. It comes out September 19th, and a story demo is available now. So if you're interested, yeah, go pick that up. They showed off Call of Duty World War II. Here's the thing. Call of Duty started off as a World War II shooter, if I remember correctly. And this one just doesn't look interesting. Call of Duty, by doing all those space shooters, right? They've been doing space shooters for so long, or sci-fi shooters. They've just lost their edge, and I don't feel like they can pull this off anymore. It didn't really look that exciting or interesting or anything, right? It got a November 3rd release date. It's just kind of whatever. They then switched from this to VR games, and they showed off a bunch of VR games. The first one they showed off, and I'm surprised they showed it off, was Skyrim VR. We knew about Fallout VR, and I'm surprised they didn't... Sony clearly paid a lot of money to get this reveal, because they showed off Fallout VR at Bethesda's show yesterday, but yet no hint of Skyrim VR. And, this is the second time we've heard about Skyrim in the last, 24 hours. First on the Switch and now on this. I literally do not give a shit about this. Because, I see, one of the reasons I'm interested in Skyrim on Switch is that I never actually beat the main campaign. I know there are a bunch of people who haven't. But I never did, and I didn't pick it up when it re-released last year. Because I was kind of waiting for the Switch version, because I think at that point we already had the trailer, and then, the last time I played Skyrim was when it first released, and I'm not one of those people who put 100 hour into it, who put hundreds of thousands of hours into that game. I didn't even put 100, and my save file got deleted at some point. So I'm more interested in it on the Switch, and I don't care about this. We got Star Child, which is a 2D platformer in VR. It feels pointless, right? I don't see why have a 2D platformer VR. I thought it was going to be they show off a giant robot, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be interesting if you're the giant robot helping the kid move through the platforms? But no, I don't think that's what they're going with this. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. And I heard the name Star Child, and I was like, where have I heard that before? Steven Universe. The nerd in me, right? They had the Impatient, which is a horror game. Scarier than The Evil Within 2. Even though we saw barely nothing of it. It's made by the same people who made Until Dawn, I think? Okay. It's whatever, right? It's another horror VR game. We got Monster of the Deep, which, oh my god, this is gonna piss people off. It's a fight. They talked about making a Final Fantasy 15 VR game. I know some people got interested, and we're finally seeing it again, and it's Final Fantasy 15 as a fishing game. You're just fishing monsters a la, I don't know, Bass Pro Fishing or fucking Animal Crossing. This is the stupidest fucking thing ever, and it's clearly making fun of its fans, right? It's like, oh, you wanted Final Fantasy 15 VR? Well, fuck you, here's a fishing game. And then it's taking the piss in your face, right? Oh my god, it's the stupidest thing. It got a September release date as well. Bravo Team, it's a VR shooter, who gives a shit. Moss. This is what I want Star Child to do. This is people from, Bungie who made this game, I think? It looks okay. It's a puzzle game, I think, where you have to guide this mouse through the world and maybe solve puzzles for it to move along. Kind of like a reverse of The Last Guardian, but in VR. It'll probably be okay, right? Well, it's whatever. Next off, they showed the big one, God of War. This looks great. This is a great looking game. As I said earlier, it looks like they've removed QuickTime events, right? At first you heard the water splashing, and I was like, oh my god, is PlayStation doing a pirate game? Oh my god, E3 is the year of pirates. Nope, it's God of War. And it looks to be about the kid. So I don't think the kid is going to die. And maybe even Kratos may die. Who knows? And I thought this God of War was a reboot. They were rebooting it in Norse mythology. But at one point he walks past a vase, a Greek-looking vase with him on it. So I think this may be a sequel, honestly. But other than that, it looked good. It's early 2018, so it did get delayed. But it looks great. All the combat's great. It's very Dark Soulsian, which isn't that much of a problem, in my opinion at least. But yeah, no, that looks good. We saw Detroit Become Human, which this is more of a hint. The last trailer, it was all about a detective trying to talk a robot out from killing a girl, and And it was all about the choices. This one's also about the choices, but it's giving us a better idea of what the story's about. Basically, it's going the Chobits route, and robots are manufactured for people. And in this story, at least, robots are sick of being manufactured for people, and they want their free will and independence. Okay, that sounds interesting. We see a bunch of the choices you can make. We see how in-depth the game is going to go. I did like the idea that they may be hinting at that maybe you'll see it from both sides of the conflict. You'll follow the robots trying to gain their freedom and independence through either peace or violence, and maybe you'll follow the detectives trying to figure it out, kind of like in the first trailer. That could be really interesting. This game could be good. I mean, it is David Cage, so I'm still kind of holding my breath, but I hope it's good. And then next up, Destiny 2, who gives a shit? Destiny 1 was fucking garbage. I don't care about Destiny 2. It may be learning some lessons from, what was it, the Taken King DLC, which I heard fixed some of the problems, but I don't. Destiny lost me. If anything, Anthem, remember we saw it at the end of Microsoft's conference and during EA's conference? That looks like a more interesting Destiny than this, and I wasn't actually too down on Anthem, right? It was one of the more positive things from Microsoft's conference, even if I was surprised with how they ended it. And then this, like I said, this was an hour and a half. For what? I say we got a lot of stuff in an hour and a half, but it also feels like we didn't get that much in an hour and a half. Or not in an hour and a half, in an hour, which worries me for Nintendo tomorrow, especially because I think there were in total 3 minutes of talking throughout this entire thing. So oh gosh. But they ended off Spider-Man. Okay, it looks good, whatever, right? The thing is, I can see people getting an Arkham vibe. A lot of superhero games nowadays give the Arkham vibe. But interestingly enough, Spider-Man did it first, right? Spider-Man did the whole Arkham thing before Arkham. Of course, Arkham perfected it, but nevertheless, it looks fine. They added QuickTime events, which I'm not totally against QuickTime events. They can work, but I'd rather not than do. But my big concern was the web swinging. I want the web swinging to be good. Because everybody always talks about the great PS2 game with the amazing web swinging that I may or may not have owned. I don't honestly remember. I owned a Spider-Man game on PS2, but I don't know if it was Spider-Man 2 or just some other game. I don't remember. But from what I can tell, the web swinging looks good. You go from swinging, you do a little parkour, you go back to swinging, right? And it has that Spider-Man charisma we like from him, right? That I'm hoping the new movie captures in like a month when that comes out. And it got a 2018 release date. Right? And that's how they ended it. It was real quick, in and out, in an hour. And it was a good show. For me, it's right around Microsoft that, where I liked it. I liked some things, but it wasn't outstanding. It didn't blow my mind. Which goes back to the question I posed in my pre-show thing. Did it convince me to buy a PS4? That I regret my choice? No. I don't feel like, I should have bought a PS4. Maybe this holiday, but for the moment, I'm good. Because a lot of these games got pushed back to 2018. So, yeah. If I had to give it the rating I've been giving everything, I'll give it the same rating as Microsoft, the B-. It had its moments, right? But yeah, tomorrow, E3 officially kicks off with and we'll also be doing Nintendo's show at like 9 o'clock in the morning. God. But yeah, no, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.